Welcome to a night of total terror.
In 1968, George Romero brought us Night of the Living Dead. It became the classic horror film of its
We
time.
must not be lulled by the concept that these are our family members or our friends. They are not. They will not respond to such emotion.
Now, George Romero brings us the most intensely shocking motion picture experience for all time.
It gets up and kills. The people it kills get up and kill.
When there is no more room in hell, the dead will walk the earth.
First came the night, then came the dawn. Now comes the most eagerly awaited day in horror film history.
Welcome back to Thursday of the Dead, episode 298. My name is Jace. Today's episode has been a long time coming. It's the announcement of the Creepshow Japanese Laserdisc giveaway. I had 3 total entries, and they were all great. Funny enough, all 3 were from people that I met for the first time in person at Living Dead Weekend 2023. And 2 of them actually won previous contests, as you'll see. So we're going to start off, with the entry from Paul, followed by the entry from Matt, and finally, the entry from Bob. And afterwards, I'll announce the winner. And this first one is from Paul. He has a great one. You'll see.
Hey, what's going on, Jace? Hope all is well in your neck of the woods. Just making my little video for the Creepshow collection segment contest for you. I gotta say, my favorite segment is definitely something to tide you over. The music cues are just right. You can't go wrong with Ted Danson and Leslie Nielsen. They're just perfect in those roles. And it's got that little Dawn connection with Galen Ross as Becky, which is awesome. And it's just it's my favorite one. So here's some cool stuff from my collection. People have seen this before, but this was from Living Dead Weekend last year. I had Tom Atkins sign this old Ben Gay box. As if you know, at the end of the movie, when the voodoo doll is, hurting him, he's holding his neck, and his wife says, "Well, you poor old bear, you want me to get the Ben Gay?" So I had him sign this box. This damn stiff neck, Tom Atkins. So he got a kick out of that, and it's a unique item for the collection. So that's pretty awesome. And then this next item is really cool. This is actually a piece of the original door from the Creepshow house, from the opening and closing segments. The owner of the house, Jason Beam, gave this to me. I gave him a Monroeville poster a few years ago, and he's like, "I'll remember you. I'll stop by. I got something for you." And he gave me this. This is from the original door that you see in the movie. It's been painted over the years, but he saved this among other pieces, and he actually made his own COA with it, which was really cool. So really cool to have that unique piece. I'm not a huge Creepshow collector, but having this is just awesome. So, and of course the Ben Gay box. But yeah, there's my little submission. Again, hope all is well. It's always a pleasure watching your videos, Music and Monsters. So keep up the awesome work, and have a good day. See you, man.
Hey, Jace. Thanks again for doing another contest. I've really been enjoying these. So Creepshow was another one of those films that I remember seeing as a kid and having no idea that it was directed by George Romero, or any interest that it was directed by George, until years later when I started digging back through his filmography as a teenager and sort of rediscovering things that were related to George that I didn't know were at the time when I first saw him. But my favorite segment out of Creepshow, I think, is going to probably be something to tide you over. Outside of my own fear of drowning, which is probably one of my biggest fears in the world, there's something inherently terrifying to me about people that, in films, of course, about people that vow to return from the dead to avenge someone or something. There just seems like there's some sort of like serious supernatural willpower involved in that. And also as a kid, I remember seeing like when Ted Danson's character Harry drowns in the water, I remember seeing that red glow behind his head and thinking that it had something to do with the devil. Of course, as a small child, that was fucking terrifying to me. So in my mind, I built like this idea that maybe he had, built a pact with the devil or something to return from the dead. So it's always stuck out to me as a scary segment because of that. Of course, now as an adult, it's not as scary as it was when I was a kid. But also growing up, my dad was a huge Naked Gun fan, and we'd always watch those. I was a big Leslie Nielsen fan because of that. So seeing Frank Drebin play an asshole villain was pretty cool. And then of course Ted Danson, growing up and watching Cheers, that was sort of like a nightly ritual for my family and I. And then of course years later, being a huge Dawn of the Dead fan, seeing Galen Ross and putting those pieces together. So that's always kind of been my favorite segment of Creepshow. So admittedly, I don't really have a ton of Creepshow memorabilia or items or artifacts, at least compared to other people. But the items that I do have, I really kind of hold dear and cherish. So I'll share those with you. But sometime around high school, I started really kind of like hardcore collecting Fangoria magazines. And I found anywhere that I could find them, eBay, thrift stores, whatever. But I found this one. This is one of the first Fangorias that I ever found when I started my collection. It's the Bloody Best of Fangoria, and I believe it was published in 1983. But it's got 2 different interviews in it, one with Tom Savini and Stephen King, and then there's another one in here with just George, which that one I thought was really cool because they kind of spoke with George a little bit about I guess there was some premature press coverage of the film because it was originally supposed to come out, I think, in the summer, and they pushed it off to October of that year. So they kind of talked a little bit about that, but really cool magazine, really cool interviews and articles in here. Some really fucking rad Road Warrior coverage in here too, from Mad Max 2 when that came out. But here, just a couple of cool pictures from the article. You got John Amplis from Father's Day, Fluffy, there's Stephen King, Galen Ross on there. So pretty cool stuff. But I've read this a million times. I love it. One of my favorites. So there's that. And then I also have this. This is one of the recent reissues of the Creepshow comic. I'm assuming probably sometime within the last decade. I can't remember exactly when I got it, but I was able to this year actually have 3 people sign it. We got Adrienne Barbeau up here, Tom Atkins, and then Tom Savini, which Tom Atkins stepped all over Tom Savini here, which I don't care. I'm sure Tom Savini wouldn't fucking care, so it is what it is. But I love it. I was very lucky to have met Tom Atkins finally, and Adrienne Barbeau. Met Savini several times now, but this is one of my favorites. So one last item, really quick. This one is important to me because my family and I we were unable to make it out to Pittsburgh this past year for Living Dead weekend. So my buddy Michael Lancaster, who runs Alpha Romero on YouTube, shout out, went out of his way to get this Tom Atkins autograph for us. So he was really kind enough to kind of go out of his way and get this for us. So this one's special and very important to me. My friends are important to me, and so I thought that was really cool of him to do this for us. And there's also a funny story attached to it, something about how, I guess because he had to fit all the names in here, he was writing a damn book or something like that. Michael could probably tell you better, but anyway, that's that. So thought that was cool. But anyway, that's it. I appreciate it. Thanks again, dude. And we'll see you in the next one.
Hey, Jace. Creepshow is probably my second favorite George Romero movie. Obviously, Dawn of the Dead is number one. but Creepshow is my earliest horror memory that I can think of. I would have been 2 or 3 years old whenever it premiered on the pay cable channels. And I vividly remember watching it with my parents, actually numerous times watching it. And my dad thinking it was hilarious that I was so scared. Every time Zombie Nate or Fluffy would show up on screen, I very vividly remember sitting on the couch behind my dad. He'd be on the sort of edge of the couch, and I'd be behind him hiding. That's how small I was. I could hide behind him, closing my eyes tighter than I could get them, and plugging my ears every time I would hear Nate or Fluffy. It was just one of those movies that affected me deeply. Obviously I didn't realize who George Romero was, and the connection to Tales from the Dark Side, which also scared the hell out of me as a little kid as well, and obviously Dawn of the Dead. Over the years, the love for Creepshow has only grown. I've collected I think just about every US video version of the movie, the different VHS releases, including the original Warner Brothers clamshell, the different DVD and Blu-ray releases that have come out, the 4K obviously, the posters, the original teaser poster with the comic book artwork that actually is in my office. I work from home, so sitting there I just look up and boom, there's the Creepshow poster staring at me. And the one sheet is actually out in the living room as a centerpiece to another thing that I'll get to shortly. Figures, got all the NECA figures. Hopefully there'll be more. Got the Monstars figures, including. I don't have that Jordy Verrill yet, so I got to pick him up. Maybe both variations. And then of course meeting Fluffy, 2015 maybe. One of the Living Dead weekends, Dave Burien had the attack puppet head, which was super cool to see that and interact with it a little bit. Living Dead weekend 2019, getting to see the actual crate when Dave Burien brought the real crate to the Monroeville Mall was super cool. That was a moment that it was like facing my fears, basically. Like literally the thing that terrified me forever. Here I am touching it. Here I am sitting in it. It was like mind blowing. The biggest thing that holds meaning for me with Creepshow is I wanted to build a replica of the crate. I wanted it in my house just because huge Creepshow fan. And I talked to my dad about doing it for the longest time. We worked out measurements. It was always one of those things whenever my parents would come visit when we lived in Illinois that, we ran out of time. We couldn't do it. And then finally in 2019, my parents came to visit shortly around, or I guess it was around my birthday. And I said, we're doing it. We're doing the crate. We're going to build it. And we went to Home Depot, got all the supplies, bought all the wood. Of course, my dad didn't bring any of his regular tools. My dad could build anything, fix anything. But he was on vacation, so he didn't bring all of his stuff, Couldn't fit everything in the minivan. But he and I proceeded to build the crate from scratch, from pieces of plywood. And, we did everything, and it came out amazing. I can't even describe what it means to me. And I ended up finishing the staining and doing the stenciling and all that stuff. And it was we built it in August, but it took, I think I finally finished it in October or November by the time I stained it and had a friend come help me stain it and everything. And I even got chains. Obviously I didn't add the blood because it was just too pretty looking. So in my mind, the crate is how it looked originally, before it got under the stairs at Horlicks University. Right now it sits in our living room. It sat in our living room in Illinois. It's filled with blankets and stuffed animals. Although Fluffy could be in there, I don't know. It's got a lot of meaning to me, as it also was the last thing that my dad and I did as a project together before he passed away. So it holds even more meaning, that it's priceless to me. Creepshow is definitely a special one for me, and I give it all the due respect for turning me to the horror fan that I am today, actually. great contest. That Laserdisc is badass. Actually, my wife Sandy was like, "Oh, I want that." She wanted it more than I do. Great idea for a contest, and take care. Stay scared.
So my dilemma was, all those entries were so good, I couldn't decide. And so what I ended up doing is buying another Creepshow Laserdisc. And so Matt and Bob both will get Creepshow Japanese Laserdiscs, and Paul will get a Creepshow metal sign that I showed off in a previous episode. Thank you to everyone that entered the contest, and congratulations. Thanks for watching. See you next week.